In the next few movies, I'm going to look at some small but very important details that can really elevate your typography, beginning with typographer's quotes. There is a preference, type preference, use typographer's quotes. We want that on nearly all the time. And when it is turned on, you will actually get paired quotation marks. But maybe you've placed some text that doesn't have paired quotation marks. You will need to change it. Also here, I'm going to add in an indent to here character. We've mentioned this before. Keyboard shortcut, Command or Control /. Typographer's quotes are great, but every once in a while they can trip us up because sometimes we might actually need feet and inch marks. So turn that preference off if necessary, but be sure to turn it back on again. As an alternative, you can use prime marks, as we see in this example. Prime marks look a lot better. Most fonts don't have prime marks, but you can borrow them from the symbol font. And to do that, we would need to use the Glyphs panel. Now, the Glyphs panel I have as part of my saved workspace, and we can also find it under the type menu. So I need to switch my font to symbol, and then I'm going to scroll up, and it's a few rows down. Here we have the prime marks that we're after. Double click to insert that. I'll repeat that process for the foot symbol. Now, having done that once, they will appear on this top row, recently used. So I can now just input them from there, which of course is a whole lot quicker. Another way that quote marks can trip us up is by assuming that we want paired quote marks all the time instead of an apostrophe. Now here, what we need is an apostrophe that substitutes for the dropped letter, for the dropped A. And InDesign thinks that we want paired single quotes. So we need to address this. Keyboard shortcut for the apostrophe, Shift Option, right square bracket. This is a problem that you see very commonly, so make sure that you don't fall victim to it. If you're quoting a passage from another language, make sure that you have the appropriate language dictionary applied to the text. So I'll select it, come to my character formats, and then we'll change that to French. Now that it's changed to French, when I type in quote marks, I get the French quote marks, which should also have a space either side of them. When it comes to accents, there may be some that you use frequently and know the keyboard shortcuts for. For example, an E acute is Option E, followed by E. A tilde over the N, Option N, followed by N. But there are some that you may not know, that I don't know. The umlaut, Option U, followed by a vowel. Now for the rest of them, I'm going to go and need to find them on the Glyphs panel. I need to make sure that I am showing Basic Latin and Latin 1. And it is a bit like looking for a needle in a haystack, but when we scroll down, ultimately we should come to them. Double click to insert. Oh, that's the wrong one. So that was a lot of work just to get some accents on my text, and it would be tedious if we had to do it like that all the time. The good news is that we can save a custom glyph set. On the Glyphs panel, choose New Glyph Set. Let's give it a name. And I will start by adding those recently used glyphs to it. Right click on the glyph, add to, and then just repeat that for all of them. Now the next time we need one of those glyphs, we can filter our view to show the glyph set. There's one other thing that we need to consider here. I'm going to come and edit the glyph set. And that is whether or not we remember the font with the glyph. Now in the case of these accented characters, I do not want to remember the font. If I'm in a different font, I just want to use that character in whatever font I'm using. But in the case of the prime marks, which are specific to the symbol font, then I do need to remember the font. For frequently used or common special characters, you can find these, or at least some of them, on the Insert Special Character symbols flyout. So here we have a registered trademark, and here we have a copyright. I'm just going to go ahead and enter the copyright with the keyboard shortcut, which is Option or Alt G. But also on that Insert Special Character, and I just right clicked there to bring up the contextual menu, we have the trademark symbol. Perhaps you want a ballot box symbol. Maybe you're creating a form. Well, that's not likely to exist in the font that you're using, but you can borrow it from a picture font like Wingdings. So back to the Glyphs panel, switch the font, find the glyph that you're after, which is right there, insert it. I'll add it to my glyph set so that I can access it more easily hereafter. I'm also going to add in a special width of space after it because a word space is too much. I'll come to the type menu, insert white space, thin space, and then I'll select the ballot box and thin space, Command or Control C, copy that, Command or Control V, paste it. Dashes. There are different widths of dashes, hyphens, the minus symbol, the N dash and the M dash. And they all mean different things. They communicate different things, so make sure that you know when to use a specific dash and how to access it. Beginning with the N dash, basic rule of thumb here is if you speak the text and you use the word to, open 9 to 5, 1914, to 1918, then you need an N dash. The M dashes are for phrases that are offset or an abrupt change in thought. And the M dash is likely to be the widest character in your glyph set. So wide, in fact, that you may choose to have them at a reduced width, as I have here, at 75% width. Now, does that mean that you need to select each one and change its width to 75%? Thankfully not. You can create a character style and then apply that automatically through a grep style. Grep styles will be coming up in later movies. But with M dashes, it's very important that you avoid this common mistake of a double hyphen or just a single hyphen with a space either side of it. That does not communicate what it needs to communicate.